Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Compelling Conversations podcast. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by my friend Mohamed Meziou. Thanks so much for being here, bro.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this one's been in the oven for a very, very long time. We finally made it happen, and this is the right time to make it happen. So, thanks for being here. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, man.
Um, I wanted to begin, man. Last night, I was at an event at my local masjid. And when I walked in, I was really surprised to see all the people that I saw. Because I saw people from like all parts of town that I knew. And I was just sitting there and I was like, wow, this is the place where I went to Sunday school. This is the place where I attended my grandfather's funeral. Like, this is that masjid that I grew up in. And I'm seeing all these faces that I never would have predicted I'd see here. It was so fascinating to me. It was really something I didn't see coming. It was so unpredicted. And that just made me think about the passing of time and how what it brings is so unpredictable and sometimes so pleasant too. Like I was sitting there and I saw some people and I smiled, inside. I was like, this is such a pleasant thing to see here, of all places, this hole in the wall in Cyprus. It was cool. So, yeah, just the passing of time and what it brings. Do you have any thoughts on that? What do you think?
Is this at Bear Creek messaging?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Um, yeah, a couple of things. First off, that's the Ramadan effect. Like message attendance in general, just um, and I would argue, like, even from a more broader standpoint, um, like the togetherness of Muslims in any given community, like always, at least here, it always peaks during Ramadan. Like that's when message attendance is the highest. People are always eating, praying, and fasting together, right? And so there's just this real sense of you get to see a lot of people more often you than might happen during the rest of the year. And second of all, I totally agree with the that sentiment that what time and I guess what ultimately the qadr of Allah brings to each and every one of us is unpredictable from our standpoint. Like we're never gonna because
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so it's so much greater than ours and on such a higher level compared to ours that it's almost I mean, I guess I don't want to say almost impossible, but like it's very hard to predict like exactly which pieces of your life are going to fall into place and when, which people are going to fall in and out of your life and when, things like that. It's like, for example, if you go to like a chess engine, right? I mean, the strongest ones right now are Stockfish and Alpha Zero. The best moves that they suggest are things that 99% of people would never have thought of. And even for the best humans to ever play on a chessboard, they often still like they'll make inaccuracies, they'll make mistakes, and they won't think the way that the engine will because the engine has such a much deeper understanding of chess than humans can. So it's kind of
Interesting.
yeah, I kind of see a parallel there in a sense.
What is
Obviously,
the parallel you see there?
that because of how higher of a level of understanding of chess the engine has, it will predict and see things that humans never could. The same thing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because his wisdom is on such a higher level than ours, he will make things come about and he will be able to see things that no human can predict.
That's deep.
Yeah.
What you were saying reminded me of something that I got from Sheikh Amar. He had shared a poem from Imam Shafi, and the poem goes, or I think it's a poem. Do you belittle dua and discount it while not knowing what the prayer accomplishes? The arrows of the night do not miss their target, but they have a span, and the span then finishes. When I read that, I was like, wow, that was really deep. It hit me hard. And that line about do you discount dua? You know, like do you like the power of it? Do you doubt it? The power of praying, of asking. It hits me. It's hard. I think that's the beauty of it is that you have to have that patience and that optimism that what I'm asking for, like I believe in this. And that I think, yeah, it's just a very beautiful thing to me. It's like I don't even have the perfect words for it. It's just a very beautiful thing just to have the hope in that.
Like that.
Cool. Another thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is something that I heard Noman Ali Khan talk about. He says in this world, people only look for the results, but Allah is more interested in your efforts. No one on earth will care about how much effort you put into practicing X, Y, and Z. If you didn't manifest the results, they don't care. But Allah cares more about those efforts than the results. And that resonated with me very deeply. I'm curious, have there been moments in your life where you've put in so much effort into a thing and the results just didn't come through the way you wanted them to?
I think so. Yeah. Or there's definitely been yeah, definitely I would say yeah. Um and more often than not that happens when it comes to like I guess long term uh changes that I may try to attempt because those are often, very difficult and very uncomfortable, and they feel foreign because if you have been doing something for a certain way for however many hours or years, and then you suddenly want to pivot, um, that's not something that can happen quickly. There's no shortcut to it, and so that like those kinds of long-term results take a level of uh, consistency, patience, just sheer volume of doing that new thing. And then if you know, and then if that makes it pretty easy to, um, like that's a hard path to stay on because you have to have all of those three things at the same time for however long it takes for that change to come about. And
What
then
are those three things?
patience, consistency, and say volume or longevity.
Volume or longevity? I would not have seen that coming. What does that mean?
Meaning that whatever this change that you want to make, it's like large or long term change, it has to come as the result of many many small actions that are
Mm.
that are spaced out over a long period of time, as opposed to one large action. One like no matter how big that action is, uh it can't replace the accumulation of those small ones for some reason. Like those things, they have there's they together are greater than the sum of their parts.
The thing that you just shared right now, it reminded me of something I heard from Jordan Peterson. He was talking about how in life, it's not so much about the goal as it is about the pursuit of the goal. And I resonate with that very strongly because when you accomplish the goal, it's over. The thrill's over. It's done. You know, it's like that scene from Tangled where when she finally, sees the lanterns and she's like, "Well, like this is my dream. Like what now?" And then the
Yeah.
dude, he's like, "Well, you go out and find another dream." That's not always an easy thing to do. And so I really resonate with that, that when you accomplish a goal or you fulfill a dream, it's almost like you're in a limbo state. Like, what now? You know? And so when he was talking about the thrill is more so in the pursuit of it, the meaning is more so in the pursuit of it, he was talking about how something ideal would be that your ultimate goal is something more transcendent. Well, maybe he didn't use this word, but I think I'm going to say this something
Mhm.
that's more transcending because it's something that you can never quite achieve in this life, but it still keeps you going. And I think that's where faith comes into play. Like, in Islam, I've told my friends this, like being a Muslim, you have a more transcended view on life. Not out of arrogance or ego, but like there's a higher purpose, something calls on to you, a duty almost. And so I really resonate with that. I just think it's a fascinating thing that it's more so in the pursuit of a thing as opposed to accomplishing it.
Yeah, 100%. Um, I mean, on the one hand, or I guess on a at face value, you could kind of bring in the old saying that something like the harder the fight, the sweeter the victory.
The harder the fight, the sweeter the victory. Yeah.
Like it's something to that effect. But I think if we follow this idea to its logical end, we come to one of the most beautiful and meaningful and powerful stories in the entire Quran, which is the story of the creation of Adam in the Quran in Surah Baqarah.
Why do you say that?
Because that story right there, I mean, and if you really go down to it, there's one ayah there that answers all your questions about what the meaning of this life is, or not even this life, what the meaning of our existence, what our purpose is, why we were created, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us this way. Um, it's all in the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the angels, I'm going to place on the earth a Khalifa. And Khalifa has several different meanings. It means someone that represents, means some it means something that takes the place of something else. It means something that perpetuates itself. So a Khalifa has to like the status of the Khalifa has to be passed down um, like often generationally, right? Both in the Muslim political sphere, like a political Khalifa, and this Khalifa. And this Khalifa, obviously, of course, is us. And you have to notice a few important things here. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say anything here at all about Jannah and Jahannam. It's completely out of the picture. The point is this life. The meaning of our existence lies here. It doesn't lie in Jannah and Jahannam, although in a sense it does, but that is created by what we do here, right? Like where we which one of those two places we go to in religion depends ultimately on what we hear, which reinforces the whole point of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in the first place. He created us to be this Khalifa. He created us to do good on the face of the earth while we're still here. And that brings me to that's also supported by another ayah in Surah Mulk. The first two ayahs go, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. And the second ayah says الذي خلق الموت والحياة. He who created death and life. By the way, notice that he said death first. And he created death for life.
Why is that significant?
It's really interesting. I think I had a reason for it. I came to a conclusion because of it, but I can't really remember what it is. Um, I think it's because maybe one of the reasons could be that living would have no meaning if we were never to die. right? Or at least living here would have no meaning if you were to never die. Because just look at the um, there have been kind of stories about people who have gone from being mortal to immortal, and the sort of I know there's like mythical tales out there and whatnot, and
Yeah,
how
definitely.
yeah, I know you probably know some more about this type of stuff than I do, about how they may fall into a sense of nihilism, they may fall into any number of things, and they find out that immortality is actually a lot worse than mortality in a lot of ways. Um, and even if you look at for example, like the Greek gods, because they're immortal, they feel like they can do whatever they want. It gives them this uh, unhealthy and inflated sense of ego, um, that
Yeah.
also being more destructive both for them and for everybody around them, for their subjects. But anyways, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, to test you in which of you is going to have the best deeds, or the not deeds, actions. Because amal means like something that you do, right? It's a little bit different from like hasanat. Hasanat is like your account of your good deeds. You have also sana'a, which means uh, you know, I guess things that you build, or something that builds on itself, something that builds up. So like that usually refers to long-term habits and behaviors. Um, so like for example, if you have something that you do every day, like prayer is a sana'a, or a sin that you commit every day is also a sana'a, right? But in case Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ, to test you, أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, in which of you is going to have the best deeds, the best actions. وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ, and He is Al-Aziz Al-Ghafur. I forgot exactly what Al-Aziz means, but I know Al-Ghafur obviously means the most forgiving. Um, and that goes back to what I said before, which is that the meaning of our entire existence, the meaning of our creation, is the point of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, is to be His Khalifa here, and is to test us in which of us is going to take up that mantle uh, in the best way, basically. Um, and so when I realized that, I was like, wow, because for a long time I thought the point of this was to go to Jannah. The point of all this is for people who want to go to Jannah can go to Jannah. Um, and that's definitely one aspect of it, but it's like what Huna Jordan Peterson said here, that the meaning of a goal is not in reaching it; it rather lies in its pursuit. Meaning of Jannah and Jahannam doesn't lie as much in either of those things or in the akhirah at all as it does in what we do here. Like subhanallah, and that makes it even more profound, because all of this all of this meaning, again, the meaning of our entire existence, for each person, it's encapsulated in just this tiny life that we have. You have, these days, life expectancy was it's like 80 years, right? In a lot of places, 70,
Yeah.
which still isn't that long if you really think about it.
Well, here's the interesting
It goes
thing.
by.
A lot of people say that, and I don't disagree. I don't disagree to that. But also, I was just driving yesterday and I was thinking, you know, 80 years is a long time though, still. Like, yeah, of course, like in the grand scale of things, of course, it's like a blip. But for an individual human life and to see what they see, that's a long time if you think about it. It's like, wow. And I was just thinking like about the 60s, and I was like, wow, they weren't even 100 years since the death of Jesse James. And so much had happened since then. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Like what can just even happen in less than 100 years? It's an interesting thing. Um, I found a lot of the things that you were just saying now very interesting. And one of them was you said a Khalifa has several different meanings. And you said one of them was something about how someone who perpetuates themselves. I thought that was interesting. When you hear that, what does that mean to you?
It means that the Khalifa, so So let's start with another example. If you want to tell someone to leave something where it is in Arabic, you say khaliha. If I say like, okay, if I say to my mom, I want you to leave this pen right here where it is, I say mama khaliha, which is which comes from the same like that word is form of the same root word that khalifa comes from. Um, and so what that means is that this khalifa has to stay where it is. It has to last. It can't be um, like it can't be something that easily dies off or that is easily displaced, right? So that's why the for a khalifa to be a khalifa, it has to be again
You have to maintain yourself.
it has to be consistent. It has to stay in its place. It has to stay where it is. And in order for that to happen, for humans at least, it needs to be something mm, that perpetuates in just like a forward kind of sequence. What,
It's fascinating.
yeah, and you know what's even more fascinating? Um, you know how in Ayat al-Kursi, one part of it says about Allah that هو يعلم بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. That means He knows what is both in front of and from behind when it comes to His servants, meaning that He knows what has happened to them, He knows what will happen, and so that tells you that another meaning of
And
Khalifa,
yet there's still the Khalifa, they're still perpetuating. Like
yeah,
even in that individual life, you are perpetuating yourself. That
right,
consistency aspect.
yeah,
That's very deep. I've
yeah,
never heard that meaning, perpetuate for this. That's so cool.
yeah.
Damn.
And
There was
it's
another,
something that
yeah,
is left behind and it has to stay there.
yeah.
Both of those things.
It's cool, man.
And
Yeah,
so we
that's
are,
really interesting to me.
yeah, we have been established here and we are intended to stay here until our time's up, right? Until ultimately the time of the this entire reality will come to an end.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
There was
it's really cool.
something you had mentioned earlier. You said pivot, and I'm curious,
Yeah,
why do you think people pivot?
because I think growth necessitates change in most cases.
Growth necessitates change.
Mhm.
Yeah, it does. What does that mean to you? Can you elaborate on that?
Um, so one way that I like to think about it is that um, I always want to be on an upward trajectory of growth because if you're not growing, that means you're either one of two things. If you're not going up, you're either stagnant or you're regressing, both of which are bad.
Yes, I'm sorry, I just have to say this. It was hilarious.
Uh,
Imam Mahad, he was saying something last night. I was like, damn, this is damn hilarious. He's like, human beings, like one decade, they'll be like, yo, I'm woke. And then the next decade, they're like, damn, everything about me is just whack. I lost it. And I just could not stop laughing. That was hilarious. So what you just said reminded me of that, like the growth spectrum. It's cool.
Why did it remind you of that in particular?
I don't know, because like sometimes in my life, like I feel like one year I'm like woke, so to speak, right? Where it's like, oh, like I'm doing the right sort of things. And then like some time will pass, it'll be like a few months, like, oh man, like what's going on here? It's just that human roller coaster. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's you're riding the wave.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I guess in a lot of ways, um, our growth often comes from the way we deal with the changes that happen around us. Um, and so that's essentially what like pivoting means to me. It means It means realizing that, okay, this way that I have historically done things, that I've historically done this one thing or two or three, however many, right, is no longer working. And that if I want something, if I want to have it work again, I need to change it.
I love that you say that. I love
Huh?
it. And I love that you say that. It's very true. And that connects it back to that thing about the Khalifa perpetuating, because you
Mm,
have to realize that the old ways don't always work and you have to adjust yourself,
yeah,
perpetuate through that. It's so
that's
cool.
so interesting because that means, so what you're essentially saying is that to to be something that has longevity, the Khalifa needs to change and adapt in order for it to last because it can't it can't necessarily do everything the same way forever and ever and continue. That's so interesting.
Isn't it? Isn't
Yeah.
it? And then that also goes back to that thing, right? Like, of course, we're a blip in like the whole of human history and reality. But
Mhm.
still, those 80 years, if God gives you life, that's still a long time. And you have to like traverse that. You have to be able
Yeah.
to change. Yeah.
Yeah. And all of this is really important because without it, in a lot of cases, like the the sheer enormity of individual and collective suffering of humans can really, really weigh you down. And it can also seem like there's no real meaning to any of it, but there is because um, that wasn't the whole ayah that I just said. So the whole ayah goes back. وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. That was the first part that I said. And then the ayah continues on. It says, it says about the malaika, إنهم قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك. The angels are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, they're saying, أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها? Are you going to are you going to establish something that will يفسد فيها, that will cause corruption in the earth? And fasada is a root word that means to like corrupt or to render something no longer functioning as it's supposed to, or to break something, right? So if I say, so one of the ways that we say, like if this phone is broken, for example, we say huwa mufassid. Huwa mufassid. It doesn't work the way it's supposed to anymore. It's broken. It's been corrupted somehow, right? So that's what the meaning of that is. And in a lot of cases, obviously, yes, humans, to this day and throughout all of history, we have done immense evils. We've committed immense evils on the earth. وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء, and they will shed blood. Not just we shed blood all the time. We shed the blood of animals. We shed our own blood. We shed the blood of other humans, right? And the thing is, like, immense violence and immense bloodshed has been committed in the name of perpetuating this Khalifa. And sometimes it's been committed in the name of things that, ultimately don't even matter, like some kind of, like a familial or tribal feud, or just some like, I mean, my mom, my mom said it best one time. She said, people used to die over Jordans. It's crazy. People will kill other people for shoes,
Yeah.
other people for belts,
Bizarre.
money for yeah. Um, and then they say after that, وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ, and we are نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ means, for lack of a better way to translate it, we are singing your praises. Like we are constantly praising you, constantly reinforcing your hamd. وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ, and we sanctify you, we make you holy. I.e., for a lot of humans, I mean, a lot of them either don't believe in God or they don't believe in him as they're supposed to. They want God to conform to their expectations instead of wanting themselves to conform to God's expectations. Right? That's also equally wrong. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them just the most succinct response possible. He says, قال قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. He said, I know what you do not know. Because he knows ultimately,
Deepest line.
yeah, he knows ultimately not just that there will be good that comes out of this, but that this is the whole point. The whole point is to have uh, a creation that has free choice, that does sin, but that is also created for this sole purpose, for the sole purpose of seeing what we are going to do with this status as our Khalifa and with this time and this choice that we have throughout our lives.
Damn, what you just said, that hit hard
This
because
ayah is insane. There's like the biggest lessons are to be gleaned from this. There's so much meaning encapsulated in this one ayah of the Quran, and so much of it that relates directly to us and directly to our existential questions that it makes that ayah and the whole story that follows one of my favorite parts of the entire Quran.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was very cool because something that came to me from that is that I've been really contemplating the idea of duty per person
Mm,
and how to shape ourselves up, we really need to establish a sense of duty on us. And the way that you've been sharing this story is that when God, when he's speaking to these angels, I know what you don't know, he's created the successor. And the successor, the Khalifa, by default, has that duty. Goes back to that idea of living a more transcending life, that a duty is on you. And yeah, just that it really what you just said just cements that idea for me in my head that we are all literally born with a duty. And it's that duty that calls you to live. It is literally that duty that calls you to live. And you have to recognize that you have a duty.
I could not have said it better.
It's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That was seriously profound. And there's another thing. I'm sure you're aware of this as well, but I also heard this from Noman Ali Khan that people, when they transgress their souls, they can feel like there's no hope for them. They feel hopeless, like um, I can't be forgiven. God doesn't like me, etc., etc. And Noman Ali Khan was talking about how the biggest fall you could have, the biggest downfall, is the downfall of Adam from heaven to earth. And yet Adam recognized what he did and he just said to God, like he became sorry, Adam and Eve, and they um they recognized they did wrong and they asked for forgiveness and God still forgave them. And it's like what Noman Ali Khan was getting at was nobody else here on earth can ever say like, oh, I'm too lost to cause. Like nobody suffered a downfall like Adam. If there is forgiveness for him, if there is salvation, for lack of better words, for him, then that exists for everyone. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. This has been like a really cool conversation, man. I really like the way that we traverse that. I'm
Yeah, it
curious,
was cool, huh?
do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to say, but you didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
Um, I mean, not really. Like, I would just say, if anything, there's one hadith, one Sahih hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about how Musa alayhi salam and Adam alayhi salam in the barzakh, which is barzakh literally means like,
Limbo.
yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of, yeah, it does. It means like something between two things. It means like a middling realm. So like the barrier between
Heaven and hell.
yeah, no, between this life and the next life, and also between
Oh, okay.
water and seawater is also called barzakh.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's what that means. So basically, it's the realm of souls. Um, and
Realm of souls. I like that.
and Musa alayhi salam asked him, "Are you the one who caused all this? Are you the one who caused the expulsion of mankind from Jannah. And Adam alayhi salam responded saying, "Are you going to blame me for something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had written would occur before I was even created?"
Damn,
And
that's
then,
deep.
yeah, and so because of that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Adam won the argument. That,
That is so interesting. Adam
yeah,
won the argument. Oh my God.
yeah. Isn't that kind of funny?
That's so interesting. I'd never heard that story before. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
it's a Sahih hadith. You can look it up. And that basically shows us that, ultimately, again, that the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala um, transcends anything that we can possibly conjure or bring to the table. Um, because, I mean, obviously, the action that he did was obviously wrong, right? But it doesn't make it any less, I guess, important or meaningful that it happened and that it
Yes.
happened for all of this to occur.
Yes. Very
So,
fascinating. One thing that I wanted to mention before we close off is, by the way, thank you for sharing that. Really, I appreciated that. That was very cool.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Taking it back to what was I gonna say?
No, you didn't forget it. Come on now.
It was something about dua, prayer, or like, oh, I remember it now.
There you go.
I was at an MSA meeting one time, and this one girl, she said something. She was like, when you ask God for something, like when you make a wish to him, it's almost as if he wants you to make that wish. I don't know if that's all the time. She didn't know even if that's all the time, but it's he guides you to wanting that, to making that wish, to making that dua. And I just thought that was really powerful and beautiful. So to anyone listening, I think that's a beautiful thing that if you really truly sincerely wish for something, perhaps that's what he wants you to wish for. And I think there's real beauty and hope in that. And
For sure.
it's yeah, I've loved this conversation. I always love talking to you. Conversation with you. I feel like every
Likewise,
single
likewise,
one we've
Allah.
had has been an amazing one. So thanks so much, man.
It's all thanks to you, man. Really. Like you give people the space to share what they want and you're a great listener. And that's a quality. That's an amazing quality, mashallah.
Thank you, man. I hope so. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
this. Yeah. Well, I suppose until next time, inshallah, my friend.
Inshallah ta'ala, yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I hope this
Absolutely.
was beneficial for you and for anybody listening.
I loved it. It was an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Likewise, Habibi.
All right. You take care, my friend.
You too, man.
Thanks.